Okay, here we are. Let me get myself out of the way. This is Kinesiology 230. This is chapter 16. We're in presentation 3. We're still talking components of endurance training. Let's get going here. So we're still in this section that started off on page 426. And to that end, we're going to jump in here. So in terms of the process, in terms of our chapter, if I can spit it out, we've gone through exercise mode, intensity, target heart rate, and now we're into wearable technology, percent functional, etc., working ourselves down the list. There's been a ton of progress in this space, and it's been really great as a trainer. And also, if you're into strength and conditioning, there's a number of different wearables, something as simple as Catapult, where it's like a GPS-oriented type of, it's a wearable that measures GPS as well as an accelerometer. And it's cool technology where you can really evaluate your athletes and how far they've run, how much work they've done, and how fast they're doing it. And in terms of simple terms, what we do with our clients, most of your clients will have something like a Fitbit or a MyZone, or perhaps they'll have something like a Galaxy Watch per se. And they're wonderful tools, but they allow us to evaluate our client real time and get some quick and dirty data points that used to take a 12 lead EKG to be able to evaluate the person. And what I like about it is it's non-invasive, and you can take stuff right in the moment and make adjustments and adaptations in the moment while you're working with your client. Now, functional capacity is measured as VO2 max, and we've talked about it a ton. Oftentimes when we think of VO2 max and obtaining VO2 max, it's determined through a graded exercise test, and a graded exercise test is usually administered by a physician or exercise physiologist. And it's from the graded exercise test that we can obtain a true maximal heart rate. Now, as we talked about before, we've kind of extrapolated it out from age-predicted maximal heart rate. A graded exercise test will give us that number just through the course of testing. Now, RPE, it's a scale that helps us to kind of monitor how hard or challenging an exercise is. Oftentimes you see it written out like this, and you'll see two different scales, one that begins at 6 and the other one begins at 20. One begins at 6 and ends at 20, the other one begins at 0 and ends at 10. And intuitively, it usually makes more sense when you talk with your clients to use the revised version. So where are you? I mean, scale of 6 to 20, and they're puffing and puffing on a treadmill. It's like, they just want to think in terms of 0 to 10. It makes more sense to do it that way. What's difficult about this is your clients have to be able to learn how to associate their loads with a numeric scale. And what's interesting, and I've said it before, is what may have been incredibly hard on day one, workout one, you get 4 weeks in is incredibly easy because our bodies have adapted to that stressor. And our clients have to learn how to associate that. And like our athletes might be a little bit more in tune to their bodies because they work out with great regularity. They're into becoming better athletes, so they'll be more in tune to like what the workloads are actually causing in terms of a stressor on their body. Whereas your clients have to go through a little bit of a learning curve. But it's relative, the RPE, it's relative to the person, and it's relative to the ability and the tolerances of the person. I reference back the example of looking at athletes to the person who normally doesn't work out. And this will change over time, and your clients have to kind of be indoctrinated and understand that as they're working out, what was difficult today will not be so difficult in week number 4 or week number 3, and it's part of a narrative that you just give to your client all the time. The book uses figure 16.1 to go ahead and convey this concept in terms of rating being 1 is nothing at all, nothing very weak, extremely little all the way up to 10. They can't go any further. You'll see different versions of this, but usually it's anywhere between a 0 to 10 scale. Now, I have to point this out because you'll probably see this later on. If an advanced client is exercising at 80% of heart rate reserve and indicates an RPE of 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, an increase of exercise intensity is appropriate. So they're at 80% and their RPE is a 4. Well, one would think if you're at 80%, you should be working in a range where your RPE is going to put you at anaerobic threshold, or the workload is going to put you at anaerobic threshold, and your RPE should actually be a little bit higher. So if they convey to you that they're at a 4, somewhat strong, it's okay, but I'm not huffing and puffing, you may have to push the gas pedal a little bit and get them moving. Metabolic equivalents, METs. And so another way to quantify exercise intensity, 1 MET is equal to 3.5 milliliters a kilogram per minute of oxygen consumption for the person. And a MET is considered like the amount of O2 required by the body to function at rest. So as you're sitting there, 1 MET, meaning 3.5 milliliters per kilogram per minute of oxygen consumption. So if you do the math on my body weight, et cetera, you'll have a mathematical equation that'll tell you how much oxygen you need at 1 MET. It's going to be different for each person. So in the book, they talk about these different levels of METs, and you can look through this and kind of understand basketball shooting around a 4.5. We get to badminton, it's pretty competitive, or you're brisk walking, and you're going to be at a 7 MET. And if we get a little bit further into it, we're doing full-on running outside. You're doing a 5.5 minute mile. That's going to be 16 METs. You're working pretty hard. So it is relative in terms of the person. So again, a lot like there's this relative, or the perceived exertion scale is relative to the person. This is also relative to the person in terms of it's 3.5 milliliters per kilogram per minute for the person. So a 200-pound person is going to have, it's still going to be 3.5 milliliter per kilogram per minute, but a 100-pound person is going to be different than a 200-pound person in terms of how much total oxygen consumption they have, just because of the actual difference in mass. All right, guys, thank you so much. Moving on to the next one.